Welcome back. We talked about the important stuff around NavBars, making them collapse at certain spots, getting the toggler to work. Now we're going to talk about forms, buttons, just adding some extra functionality. So if we go back, I have a new file just so it didn't get too complicated. And I'm going to start by actually just duplicating one of the navs we did last time so we don't have to do this entire thing over. Let's take this one that expands at size small. You could also copy this from the docs. It just says expand at small. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, it looks like this right here. And then once I shrink it down, we get the toggler. So suppose I wanted to add a nice little form in here, or even just a button. For example, on Bootstrap, there's this button on the right side, download. If I wanted to add a button in like that, well, there's a couple options. I basically can just add a button in, just like this is a button right here. So I can just come right down here on this after my NavBar collapse. It depends if I want my button to collapse with this content or not. So do I want my button to disappear and go down here? If I do, then it needs to go inside of the div that has the collapse on it. Otherwise, if I want it to stay there, then I can put it afterwards. So let's say I do want it to go away. So I'll do button btn dash, what do we want to do? Let's do btn outline light. And then, actually this is a light navbar. So let's do btn outline dark. And let's say download. Okay, so you can see by default, my button is right here. Now, there's a reason I introduced Flexbox earlier in this section, because we can actually use the Flex utilities within this div to position things. So if you take a look here, it says that somewhere. Here you go. Use additional Flex utilities to adjust this behavior. So if I want this to go all the way to the right, there's a box going all the way here. It doesn't go all the way across, but there's a box containing these links as one item, which is the navbar, and then this button. So if I want this pushed to the right, I can use justify content between. Remember, that spreads out the space between the button and these links, and it treats these as one item. So I can do that now. On this div, I just say justify content between, and it gets pushed over to the right. I could change that if I wanted to, I don't know, center. There we go. But I like between in this case. That pushes it over to the right, but it still collapses because it's still inside that div that has the collapse on it. So that's one way of doing it. The other option that's a little different, I'm going to duplicate this nav just to show you. It's basically the same thing, except we don't have to use justify content between. I can use margin auto. So I can give this button margin left of auto, which will automatically take up the space or push it over essentially. Or I could give this right here, this nav, margin right of auto, and that'll push this over. So if I wanted to do that, I could just simply come down to the button and say margin left auto, and that works. Or again, I could come to this nav and say margin right, not that, this one right here, margin right auto, and it pushes it over. Either one works. I kind of prefer to do it on the button myself because this is the thing that I like to think of, that we're moving the button. We're not moving this, but it doesn't really matter. Both of them work. Okay, and then if we just shrink it down, you can see everything looks good. They're using the same ID, so they're going together. So to do a form, we just use the class form inline, which I did show you earlier in the form section. So let's say instead of a button on this one, or I guess I'll just duplicate it again, no problem with that. One more time. Let's say that this one, we'll just say with form, exclamation point. And I want to add a form on the right side, a search form or something. Okay, so instead of this button here, we can get rid of that. We'll do form with the class of form-inline. And then we'll figure out what we want to add in to that form. Do we want a single input with a button? Okay, that's easy enough. Hopefully we remember how to do forms. So we need an input. Let's say type equals text with the class of form control. And then, oh, did a div. What am I doing? There we go. And then we'll get rid of this for now. And then a button. Let's do btn What should we do? Maybe outline primary success. Let's do BTN success. And we'll just say search. Okay, so if this is our form now, we can add padding and space it out. I don't like how it's right here, just like I didn't like the button when it was right there. So I can either give my form a class of margin left auto, pushes it to the right. Everything looks good. Nope, shrinking the wrong thing. Here we go. And it looks okay enough. Or I can also do margin right auto on the nav here, or I can do justify content. If I want to play around, let's say center. And now we get it all in the middle. Or I could do end and push it all to the end. But I like to do between, and that looks good too. Now there is a slight problem with what we have. First of all, we might want to add some padding or something, or margin to the left of this to make it just a little nicer. So we could say like margin left, I don't know, 2 or 3. Is that going to work for us? Save. That might be a bit much. Okay, that looks okay. I would probably do this as an input group personally. I don't really like how this looks, but it's just to show you how to put a form there. But the problem we have is that we're running out of space here because we don't have it collapse until extra small. And right there, there's a little bit of an issue. So we could, there's multiple ways of fixing that. I would probably, if you have this scenario, it usually means that you have too much content that you're trying to display at this small size. You probably don't want your navbar to look like this anyways. This is a lot of stuff. So what I would do is just change this to be expand at medium. And now everything's down there in that drawer until you hit medium, and then it makes sense. Now there's other ways of getting around that. You could do some stuff with the margin and padding, make it responsive, different breakpoints, whatever works for you. So you could also do this with an input group as they show here. I don't think I need to show that, but you just replace what you have here in this form. You can just put an input group there instead. I mean, they have it in the docs right here. You can just copy that in, just show you. If I replace this with my input group, there we go. Looks nice. Looks good in here. I personally like the input group more. I'd put a button at the end and change that to be a search button. What else? Yeah, you can change the button sizes. You can put what's called NavBar text in there. So if you want some text that just, I don't know, says something in your navbar that isn't actually a link, you could do that. We've got color schemes we talked about. I didn't talk about this, which is making a custom background color. So let's do one of those right now. Come over here. Let's customize this one that has the form in it. Why not? So I'll give it instead of background light, we don't even have to give it a background. And I'll do it inline as a style and just say background is, and then let's just do white for now. And I'm bad at hex colors and remembering them myself, so I'm just going to use the little picker here. I want like an olive green. I don't even know if you call this olive green. Whatever color this is, I like that color. Okay. No, that's too green. Yeah, there we go. So I'm going to pick that color and save. And now our navbar has that background. And that's pretty much all there is to it. To changing the color, you know, if we wanted to do a purple one, like what we have over here, let's say, I don't know exactly what shade that is. I could get the color picker out. But if we want purple, let's just sort of guesstimate it. So we need something a little bluer. Maybe like I don't know, I'm bad at this. Something sort of like that. Let's just leave it at that and save. And then we want text white, which we already have. No, we don't. We need navbar dark to get that light text. And it's still a little too purpley. Good enough for now. Okay, so in this video, we just talked about the fact that you can put other elements in your navbar, often buttons, search fields, sign up, whatever, login, info. On the right side, you can put it on the left side. You can move things around either by using the flexbox, justify content around or between or end, start that we talked about earlier in the section, but you can also use margin auto. So we could give this a margin left auto to push it over here, or give this a margin right auto to push this over there. Two different ways of achieving the same thing. And otherwise, I guess that's pretty much it. We talked about colors. The last thing in a quick video next, I'm going to talk about placement. How do we make a fixed top or a fixed bottom or a sticky top navbar? So that's coming up.